These rich, powerful old men are like 11-year-old boys talking about the crush that they have, and they're asking Jeffrey Epstein for advice about this?
I feel like this is the whole ballgame. It's all about sex and power.
Hello and welcome to the Bulwark Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Miller. Delighted to welcome to the show the host of the new podcast, Runaway Country, from Crooked Media. I know those guys. She also writes on Substack, How the Hell with Alex Wagner. It's Alex Wagner. Welcome back, girl. How you doing?
You know, no one says Runaway Country like you. You just, there's a certain Southern lilt that I really
get
appreciate.
Excited, I too, and it's just, I still love this country. You know, I still got my George W. in me.
Yeah, you got
Runaway,
it in you.
You know, I still got
country.
it. All right,
Runaway
I might not be
country.
a Republican anymore, but I still love this country.
You have that conservative enunciation, and I'm here for it, Tim. I am here for it.
That is good. I'm glad that you can notice. I do. I
notice
do
and
occasionally
appreciate.
The progressive listeners. Some of my word choice. It's just different. I'm still an immigrant to the coalition,
and we want you to retain.
Sometimes I say a word and I didn't realize that this is a sensitive word now, or what we're not saying.
It's a salad bowl, not a melting pot. You are who you are, and we appreciate you for who you are.
On the peppers, on the spicy
You're
peppers,
the cherry tomato.
Oh, I love a cherry tomato. Okay, let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, good segue.
The pedophile. I don't know who he is in the salad bowl. The balsamic. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, but it was breaking right as Michael Fanone came on. So I think it's worth just kind of revisiting. I want to talk about the Trump of it first. There's so much, though. After that, when we were on, it was just kind of those 3 Trump emails that had been leaked. And then there are like 20,000 pages that were leaked after that. I'm not going to pretend like I read all of them, but I read a lot. And, you know, we have some Bulwark nerds who are combing for me.
We
and so we'll get to some of that.
Nerds.
Yeah,
and also reporters who are doing some impressive reporting.
We do appreciate the
now.
reporters and the nerds both. The key ones, though, remain. He was spending hours alone. Yesterday we were talking about this. The victims may have been redacted, but it was Virginia Giuffre, and we saw in an unredacted email. He spent hours alone with her at Trump's home. It's important who she is for some of the reasons of the Trump spin, which we'll get to in a second. There also is the Maxwell Epstein email about how Trump knew about the girls with regards to the ones that he'd taken from Mar-a-Lago. One that we hadn't got to yesterday, Epstein emailed Obama lawyer Catherine Rummeler. I'm still not sure why she and Epstein were such pals.
Kathy Rummeler had a lot of correspondence.
Yeah.
The White House counsel.
Yeah. I don't know about that. We'll get back to that. But Epstein said to Kathy, "You see, I know how dirty Donald is." He also said, I was telling a story in one email about how Donald was like put his nose up to the glass because he was so excited to see all the girls that were running around.
Almost walked through the glass door because there were young girls frolicking in the pool.
Yeah. Wolf said to Epstein, "You can hang him in a way that generates positive benefit for you." So a lot there. Smoking guns about directly relating to Trump actually, doing anything sexual with an underage girl. A lot of smoking guns related to Trump knowing exactly what Epstein was up to, being around, being in the house for hours and hours on end, having a lot of baggage that Epstein's aware of, and covering up the details of all this so that we all wouldn't see it. So that seems bad. What were your big reactions?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, if there's not a smoking gun, but if there's something that is explosive in this, it's, of course, he knew about the girls, right? There's no getting around that. And Donald Trump's feigned innocence in all of this. I think the immediate is kind of, first of all, what's going on with Ghislaine Maxwell, who's already gotten special dispensation from Trump. It's clear Ghislaine Maxwell knows more about Trump than she's let on. Some of the stuff dates from a period where Ghislaine Maxwell, said he was a perfect gentleman, but then she's also on email with Jeffrey Epstein saying, "Yeah, I've been thinking about the fact that Trump is a dog that didn't bark." Right? That's Epstein's line, but clearly there's more there. And the fact that we have someone in jail right now who's asking for, I believe, a full pardon for Trump or commutation of her sentence, like this week. I mean, there needs to be a lot of scrutiny on that because I don't even think quid pro quo covers it. It's like so clearly an insider's deal. And to the degree that Democrats, I mean, we'll get to this later, I'm sure, can tie this to the overall corruption of this administration and the protection of the powerful and the wealthy. I mean, this is like the best case in point, something everybody understands. The enabler of one of Trump's, sick party guys, aka Jeffrey Epstein, is maybe going to get off for heinous crimes because she has dirt on the president. I mean, it's
even if she hasn't gotten off, I talked to Julie Brown about this earlier this week. Like, it's like her situation is crazy. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but I guess there was somebody at the jail at this Club Fed in Texas was like complaining that they're being treated like Ghislaine Maxwell's bitch, like the way that like she's like bossing them around. The warden is being very helpful to her and like getting emails out. She has access to a computer where she can contact people outside without oversight. Her treatment is totally, abnormal is like an understatement. Like it's not anomalous. Like there's no example of somebody who has her type of conviction being in this prison at all. Forget being in this type of jail, and then also having this like special favors and access. She signed for this commutation. And we're seeing here like the direct emails between her and Jeffrey about Trump. This is not everything, obviously. There's more. Trump, at least you'd think, knows what's in there since they, had been rummaging through these files and been flagging his name, and they say they have a share file about him. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think it takes a MacGyver to figure out whether there's a direct connection there.
Well, yeah, like one of these people is dead. Right. One is in the White House, and the other one's in jail trying to get out. Like, let's look closely at the relationship between the two living people and see what happens this week, right? And then, of course, first of all, I don't think everybody's combed through all 20,000 emails. There's going to be more to come. Yeah. Trump's handling of this makes no sense. The fact that their defense here was that the redacted name in the email, which we now know was Virginia Giuffre, that she said Trump was a perfect gentleman. It's like, she said that about Mar-a-Lago. She committed suicide herself. She's not here to tell us more. And like, just saying, this person once said something nice about me does not absolve Trump of clearly what is extensive behavior. And by the way, extensive interactions with Virginia Giuffre, because she apparently spent hours with Trump, not just at Mar-a-Lago, but at Jeffrey Epstein's house. So
I love that spin, by the way. The White House rapid response account was tweeting it at my colleague Sam Stein, right? That was just like, well, here's an old quote of Virginia Giuffre saying that Trump was a perfect gentleman. I was like, so what you're saying your spin here is that Trump spent hours alone with an underage girl who worked for you and then got poached by Jeffrey Epstein as part of his child sex trafficking ring. And he was hanging out with her at the child sex trafficker's house for hours. And she said that he didn't do anything to her. Well, okay. I mean, I guess case closed. All right. I guess. Right. I mean, were there other women around? Stuff. Were there other girls around? Yeah. Like maybe it was just because she was, otherwise indisposed with Prince Andrew. I don't know. I guess it just I've never been, at a child sex trafficker's house with an underage girl or boy hanging out for hours. Like that seems like a pretty incriminating situation, even if the child says you were behaved.
And that he was just helping her with literally babysitting tips and babysitting leads because he's known to be a selfless person that's really engaged in childcare. Huh? Yeah, right. Also, if it's all fake, what a weird defense. Like you can't have it all these, it's like the White House wants to have it every which way, and none of it makes sense anymore. And nobody's going to believe Donald Trump even knows how to hire a babysitter, let alone give other people tips on babysitting gigs.
I mean, and who would want to be a babysitter for Donald
Trump?
I
guess you could argue everyone in the White House is a babysitter for Donald Trump.
That's true. Right. I guess. I was thinking more like if you were a parent of a teen, would you? And Donald Trump was calling saying that he needed a babysitter for little Barron. I think that's like a do not send. That's a do not send. Ooh, sorry, Donald.
That's a new phone.
My daughter here, little Lauren, is not going to be available this weekend. You mentioned the White House response. Let's listen to it. It's pretty. Both. When I say the White House, I mean Fox. Also, Fox and the White House's response.
One and the same.
Caroline Leavitt fielded questions about the release of those emails from House Democrats related to President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, calling it a manufactured hoax.
So this administration has done more than any, and it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party.
Manufactured hoax is what everybody's going with. You saw that a couple times on Fox yesterday.
You could do one or the other. Gilding the lily a little bit. It's a hoax or it's manufactured.
Yeah, what part is which part is the hoax? I guess the manufactured part is that they're doing it today. Like they thought that it was the timing was manufactured, but it had to come out sometime.
Sure, it's manufactured story. Is it a hoax? But they are also saying like the people in question are these people. But then if it's not real, what? The defense makes no sense because
he was a gentleman, but it's a hoax.
But it's a total hoax.
He was also an FBI informant, and a police informant, and told on Jeffrey Epstein. And he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago because he knew he was a creep. But it's a hoax, right? And
if it were real, he would have been a gentleman and kicked him out. But it's not real. But he was a gentleman all the same.
Yeah.
It's
and
completely
they had the
incoherent.
Girl party.
I am so obsessed. I'm so obsessed with the fact that like part of the reason we even know about Jeffrey Epstein is because Donald Trump made him part of his campaign, not like as a staffer, but as a narrative about like all these rich and famous Democrats who were, in cahoots with Epstein, going to the private island, partaking of the girls, whatever. And all along, Trump knew that he was involved too, even if he wasn't doing anything illegal. He was apparently on the plane. He was at Mar-a-Lago, inadvertently part of the pipeline of sex trafficking. Again, potentially inadvertently, but nonetheless involved in this, going to parties with Epstein, going to Epstein's house. And with all of that knowledge, goes forward and is like, I'm going to make this a big fucking deal in my campaign. It's going to be totemic as far as the storyline of the elites fucking everyone over and having secret cabals where they do bad things. I'm going to use this to my advantage, and I'm going to call for the release of the Epstein files and then populate the upper echelons of my cabinet with people who believe in the release of the Epstein files, knowing the entire time that if and when the Epstein files came out, he was going to be all over them. It is the behavior of a madman. Like, it's insane that he has put himself in this position.
Yeah, it's behavior of a psychopath, but also behavior of somebody that believes, I mean, the original text of Trump, the only text you really need to understand of Trump is the audio from the Access Hollywood tape, which is, if you're a star, they let you do it.
Yeah.
I do think that was his mindset. Like, who knows exactly what the worst possible thing that he did in the Epstein file is, but I think that it's legitimately possible that he thinks that he didn't do anything wrong. Because it's fine to have 18, 19-year-old girls around and fondle them. And like, that's just kind of one of the benefits of stardom.
Then why, I mean, then if that's true, then why did he go back on his promise, have Pam Bondi pull a hard Huey and like create this problem where now members of his own party have to defect and hold hands with Ro Khanna and like sign a discharge?
Maybe because he saw it. Maybe it was one of those things. I don't know. If you ever been one of those situations,
it's worse than I remember.
Yeah, I was a bad kid. You're a good guy. And I was never doing pedophilia, but I was I was a bad kid. Sometimes I can imagine a situation where people are like, where I was like, oh, what me and my buddies were doing, that wasn't that bad. And then you go and then somebody shows you the texts, and then you look at them, you're like, oh, I don't want my husband to see this. Maybe it's that, right? Like
I don't know. This isn't just some random friend. This is a person who is like, I don't know. Child sex trafficker, like solicited prostitution in Florida, like is a known entity and a bad dude. And like, the relationship was years long.
Yesterday, there was a moment I was feeling a little bored by this because I was like, and it's really bad. And I feel horrible for the victims. And I think that like some people who have like didn't pay attention to this for all the time, like are kind of titillated by it, because it is titillating. Like I was really titillated by this when I first like learned about it. But it's been years. He was involved. We know it. By the way, he also has 24 other women that have accused him of sexual misconduct, right? Like there's like some element of this that like the mystery element is a little bit gone, but how you phrase it, it does bring a little mystery back, which is just like, why covered? I mean, like if the hubristic point of this was just like, fuck it, like, yeah, people know it. I'm a playboy. I can go out on Fifth Avenue and do whatever I want. I grab them by the pussy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so who cares? I'm going to use this as a cudgel in a campaign because I have Teflon on this sort of stuff. Then why cover it up now? And I mean, who knows? Like maybe it's worse than he remembered. Maybe it's worse than he realized. Maybe Melania started talking to him. Yeah, maybe it's the other people in there, which I want to get to in a second. And I don't know. But that
they're
is
Easter
a
eggs.
mystery.
there are some Easter eggs in there that suggest there's like a little bit more to the story, or maybe a lot bit more than we don't know. You put together, of course, Trump knew about the girls, the fact that he's spending hours, at Epstein's house with victims, and the fact that he wrote that incredibly suggestive, very intriguing birthday message to him. And you just think, what was the relationship between these two guys? And if it was just like sleazy Donald Trump walking into glass patio doors because there were like girls in bikinis on the other side, I feel like that's something Donald Trump, as a former like Miss America host, would own. But he's going out of his way to the degree that we have almost like a Watergate level scandal where the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the leadership in the House Republican Party, and the FBI and DOJ are all in cahoots to either distract or cover up what happened between Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Leads me to think, I got some questions. Also, the death in jail, got a lot of questions about that, given who else was on these text chains.
Where are you at on that? Where do you think about the death in jail?
You know me. I like a good conspiracy every now and again.
You're interested? Do you think he killed himself?
Well, I just think what we learn here in this latest tranche of information, setting even Trump aside, is like he's talking to the Russians, he's talking to the Israelis.
Epstein, when you're saying Epstein, like this is also that's crazy here. Epstein is just on the Russians. We should mention this. This is in an email to the Norway envoy. He says, I think you might suggest to Putin that Lavrov could get insight talking to me. The exchange goes on, and he says, I've already actually spoken to Vitaly Churkin, who is Russia's ambassador to the United Nations, about Trump before Churkin died. And he said that he benefited from hearing my perspective. So, yeah, and he's talking to the Russians on the Israeli stuff. Like, obviously, the Ehud Barak is just in these emails everywhere. He's helping. He can barely type. This is another sign thing with this. Like, he can't type. Like, he writes like
predictive tests existed in 2018.
I mean, like the emails are like my second grade child has fewer grammar mistakes than Jeffrey Epstein does, and yet somehow he's brokering deals between Israel and foreign countries. I don't have it in front of me, like Mongolia. I forget what it was, but Israel and a couple of foreign countries.
Talking to Bannon about how to make inroads to Europe and like what the European landscape dictates of people who'd like to be, relevant in Europe and making kind of directing policy in Europe. I mean, just like literally everything that QAnon has been suggesting about this elite cabal that like orchestrates global affairs. Like here's Jeffrey Epstein in the middle of all of that.
And then they have the meeting with Lauren Boebert yesterday. I'm sorry to we're getting the string out in the cork board right now, but it's like
no, this is
the Russians,
why we're here.
The Israelis. He's dead. We don't know. I mean, he died while Bill Barr was in charge of the Justice Department, which you just mentioned, not while Hillary Clinton was. And then they're covering it up. Obviously, it's like, okay, maybe again it's something else. Maybe it's Trump embarrassment. Maybe it's that Trump didn't know that there were women that called the FBI about him in relation to that's another thing that wasn't in these emails. That's another thing that's come out recently. One of the women had like contacted the FBI and said that like Epstein took her to Trump's office. So maybe he was like, whoa, I had the FBI on my ass. I don't know. But then they're doing a final effort to stop the next tranche, which we may or may not get, but that the House, that Ro Khanna and Tom Massey are trying to get released with this discharge petition. And he's trying to get the remaining Republicans who have signed on to the discharge petition off of it. And he calls Lauren Boebert to the White House. And they have a meeting in the Situation Room. Why was the meeting in the Situation? I mean, you could meet anywhere. There's a lot of meeting rooms in the White House. She was meeting in the Situation Room with Bondi, Boebert, Rubio, I think.
Again, it does not assuage one's paranoid suspicions, right?
No, it did the opposite to me. I was like, why was this meeting in the Situation Room? Was there classified information related to Epstein? And was it? And has Trump hasn't really demonstrated a lot of care in the past about about classified documents. Like, he had them in his bathroom. He's leaking things about the Israelis.
He calls people on his personal cell phone.
Lavrov was in the Oval Office. He's telling them about what the Israelis have on it. So I don't know. But in this case, he felt like he needed a Situation Room meeting with Lauren Boebert.
It's one of two things. One, there is actually classified information relating to like sort of the geopolitical landscape and Mossad and whatever else that dovetails with this, or CIA, whatever, which is like, or he's trying to scare the shit out of Lauren Boebert and be like, Lauren, we're going to the Red Room. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like, I'm really fucking serious about this, Lauren. So serious, we're going into a room where you can't bring your cell phone.
That's bizarre. Where are you at on the political fallout of this? I can't tell. Like,
Okay.
I mean, do people retreat to their partisan camps? I mean, at the at minimum, if the Democrats win next year, there'll be a special committee to investigate all of this, right? So I mean, I feel like we're going to be. This is a story that's with us for years ahead still.
I mean, it comes in dribs and drabs. There's a lot of correspondence. I do not think that this will have this, unfortunately, because I think it warrants bipartisan interest and investigation. I just feel like the MAGA appetite, as it's become very clear that Donald Trump is actually involved in this cabal, the MAGA appetite for revealing the truth has lessened. And I think the reason it was resonant and the reason, Trump was in a tailspin over it, not to say that he's not still in some kind of vortex, is because he felt like it was a real inflection point, and he was really, the support for him at the base was eroding. And I just, though this should confirm everybody's suspicions about a global elite that was, in fact, including the president of the United States, doing untoward and possibly illegal things, though that should, spike an interest in the part of people who embrace conspiracy theories, many of whom are in MAGA. I just don't know that it will, because it is such an indictment of Trump, given how much his name appears in all of this. I don't mean to sound craven about it, because it's like, this is horrible. And by the way, like, other people who are involved in this, who are Democrats, also are fucking awful and should not get any kind of, pass on any of that. But, I think the way that it even changes the political landscape is if Democrats can offer this as a data point in the larger argument about corruption in the Trump administration, right? Like, it has to be part of a bigger thesis. It has to be part of a bigger thesis, because otherwise it's just like another scandal involving women and Donald Trump, where there's no kind of clear, there's like some shadowy details, and the narrative is going to be garbled by Trump, and the White House is going to spin as it does. The victims' voices are never going to match the bully pulpit of the president. And so, I feel like unless and until it becomes woven in with a very established narrative that President Trump is really only out there for the benefit of his friends, the wealthy, and himself, then I don't think it's politically that resonant.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm interested to see what the Joe Rogan show does. I don't. It's not cracking Fox. I mean, we were joking earlier, but like, Fox barely even talk. Like, Fox only talks about this in the context of how the Democrats are trying to use it as a political tool. Like, that's the only frame in which it's discussed on that network. But the world is out there. You know what I mean? Like, is Rogan, Candace? Like, there's some rogue. That was not an intended pun. Elements of the MAGA media world now in a way that there wasn't as much 10 years ago. Most holiday gifts end up in a drawer or the back of your closet or accidentally left at your cousin's house. Not this one. Mint Mobile is offering unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. That's their best deal of the year. The only holiday gift you'll actually use every single day. So with Mint Mobile's best deal of the year, you can get a 3, 6, or 12-month unlimited plan for $15 a month. All Mint plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. You can bring your current phone and number over to Mint. No contracts and no nonsense. What a lot of parents are going through right now is, when do the kids get the phone? How do you deal with it? When do they jump on your plan? Do you give them a different option? I got to tell you, not for a 7-year-old. Not happening. Sorry, girl. But if I needed this product, if there's an older kid in the house, this is what I'd be turning to. Something affordable, something you can manage, something there's not going to be overages. So it might be something to consider if you got a teen in the house. Don't get them socks. Get them premium wireless for $15 a month. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/bulwark. That's mintmobile.com/bulwark. Limited time offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for a 12-month plan required, which is a $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Over 35 gigabytes. May slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. You mentioned the other people. I should say, because I've lobbed old Bill Clinton in here a couple of times. One of the other emails I found was interesting was like Epstein specifically was emailing somebody else saying that Clinton has never been to the island, and I don't know why people are making these accusations about me and Clinton, so who knows. Epstein, not the most reliable source. Some other Democrats, on the other hand, and other people. Larry Summers.
Gross.
Obama, a cabinet member, head of Harvard, Extremely gross. You remember when the DOJ came in and they were handing out the binders to like DC Drano and all the MAGA influencers? Now here are the Epstein files. We're going to go
the
after
manufactured
these guys.
hoax?
Yeah, of the manufactured hoax. They're handing out the binders with the information about the manufactured hoax. Yeah, when they were doing that because they thought it was going to be all these Democratic elites and they were going to come after them. The Department of Justice was going to come after them. Like Larry Summers has to be breathing a sigh of relief, that Donald Trump is in the files so much because he's in there a lot. There's the gross and potentially certainly complicit in whitewashing Epstein. At minimum, Larry Summers is complicit in greatly whitewashing Epstein after he'd already been convicted of child sex trafficking.
Yes.
It's the minimum thing he's complicit in. In addition, though, he's pretty pathetic. The emails from the pathetic rich guys were to me almost outside of politics the most interesting takeaway. It was like enough to almost, if they weren't emailing the most notorious child sex trafficker in the world, you would almost feel sad for a couple of them. Here's Summers, 64-year-old man in 2019, asking Epstein for lady advice. Apparently, as him and another younger gentleman were pursuing the same woman. He said, "I didn't want to be in the gift-giving competition while being the friend without benefits." Epstein replies, encouraging him. "Being annoyed shows caring. Not whining shows strength." Why are you going to Jeffrey Epstein for your advice? Jonathan Farkas, here's one other guy I just want to lump in with him. Trump friend, ambassador now, Malta, I think. 2017, Farkas, "I'm a bit old and not tall enough, but she seems intelligent and kind." Epstein, "Careful, she's not trustworthy." Farkas, "A two-timer?" Epstein, "Worse." Farkas, "Jeffrey, please help me. Is she a hooker?" It's like, what? Like these rich, powerful old men are like 11-year-old boys talking about the crush that they have, and they're asking Jeffrey Epstein for advice about this?
I feel like this is the whole ballgame. It's all about sex and power. And you have people like Larry Summers, who is a notoriously egotistical, kind of like, dare I say, douchebag, like known to be.
You can dare here.
Known to be kind of like arrogant. And then you see him on the flip side of this, so pathetic, like not completely at sea. And I feel like it's like so much of MAGA, for example, is built on the sort of reaction to this notion that men have been, they're beta cucks, that Democrats have destroyed masculinity, that they have, emasculated the American male, and that it is all about reclaiming your manhood and your confidence. And like, this is such insight into how these wealthy, powerful men were so, not even naive, but just incapable of navigating basic sort of romantic relationships and sexual relationships. And it gives, I'm not in any way excusing it, but I think it also informs why they were preying on young girls too, right? In the most toxic expression of this sort of masculine inability to close the deal. They're like, oh, well, we're going to go after 14 and 15-year-olds because they're easy marks. Like because
we're emotionally 14 and 15.
We're emotionally 14 and 15. We don't know how to do it. And like, we're playing at our level there. And that like, we can get those, like, I don't know whether they're like consciously or subconsciously saying this, but of course they're preying on children because they're innocents, and like, they're not part of this game of gift giving and, the complications of dating in the 20th and late 20th and early 21st century are too much for these men. They want something simple. They want to dominate. They want to win. And like, they so obviously don't know how to otherwise. I think it just gets at the central problem of like the masculinity that lays in like the heart of darkness, apparently in a bipartisan fashion with both Democrats and Republicans alike. But these big questions about manhood, virility, power, and love or lack thereof. It's really crazy to me. Those emails, I think, just sociologically are the most revelatory.
Same. Yeah. And this is what I'm getting increasingly radicalized against AI. And I'm pretty concerned about the young boys and the porn and the sex bots and the whatever. But maybe we need sex robots for old men.
I mean,
maybe
Tim,
it
that's
would
the
help.
wrong answer.
You
No,
don't think so? Maybe
no,
it would
not
help.
sex robots.
I think Larry Summers needed
What
a
we
sex
need to
robot.
do is
I
cultivate.
think we would have been better off if Larry
Jesus,
Summers
man,
and
no.
Jonathan Farkas
Poor
had a sex robot.
Poor
I think
sex
so.
robots. No, I think it's more like we need to better cultivate human to human interaction. Like not go full digital.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
I just think this is the sorrow at the root of so much grievance in American politics, a feeling of rejection or feeling of less than and not feeling like you can be intimate with a person. Now I sound like Esther Perel, but I do think sex undergirds so much of the anger in American politics.
People
and
need sex, but here's the thing. For the YouTube people, we'll pull up a picture of Jonathan Farkas. For the audio, you'll just have to imagine. This guy's not, who wants to have sex with this guy? Nobody that he wants to have sex with.
Someone does.
Someone does, but not what he's hoping. His expectations are out of whack for love. Okay. You're a rich, ugly old troll. Okay. So that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. We all go through our fate. We all have weaknesses.
There's someone for everyone.
Sure. Of course. Yeah. You know what I mean? Look, we all deal with aging and frailty. I'm here. I'm a man.
You're in a fucking baseball cap looking like you're no day older than 32. I don't even
look, exactly right. I'm in a flat brim baseball cap, like fucking Peter Pan over here, like trying to keep my youth. All right. Like, so I get it. I understand. We're all fucking vulnerable. All right. But like, you got to deal with it better than this, begging child sex traffickers for advice like a 15-year-old. And so I'm just trying to think of other solutions for these guys.
I am not excusing
because they need validation.
Child sex trafficking. I am just simply saying.
I know you're not excusing. I'm saying you're going against me on the AI sex bot. We're just brainstorming. What else could we do what else can we do for Jonathan Farkas to make him happy besides the sex bot? Is a sex
At this
robot?
age, maybe it's just about the sex bot. What I'm saying is it needs to be directly addressed, especially when we talk about the manosphere, because otherwise this is the end expression of it, right? Is the fucking pathos and the loneliness is like so profound, and the rejection, the fear of rejection. Jeffrey, please help me. Is she a hooker? Like, oh my God. Here's where we're at.
Friend without benefits. I mean, Larry Summers, be a better person. Find somebody to cuddle. Find some validation. Find some fulfillment in life in other places. I don't know. Garden. I don't know. It's so sad though, and it's a problem. And you're the men who need this validation.
This is many men, even those we don't think need it.
I know.
Need it.
No, trust me, I get it.
It is
we all do. I'm pro.
It's a central conceit of life.
Sex podcast, but
let's do a sex podcast. I'm down.
Okay, we'll do it later. Yeah, I'm down for that. We unfortunately have a lot happening in the news, but I'm interested. I'm just looking at this Larry Summers and Jonathan Farkas picture, trying to figure out what we can do for future men like them. I don't know.
Starts young. You got to start young.
If only that's what I'm. If only in college they were doing. Probably this is another problem. They just got money now, and it's like too late. That they were misaligned.
But you don't deserve love and sex just because you have money. Like you can be like what you have to be is a decent fucking person.
Yeah, they're trying to make up for lost time. Okay, that went a little longer than I thought. It's good. It's good. If you have sex advice questions for me and Alex Wagner, email us bulwarkpodcast@thebulwark.com. We'll do a separate bonus pod in a couple weeks.
We totally will.
Okay, shutdown stuff. We're gonna keep this fast, but I'm taking a victory lap. Okay, you guys can all hate me. I had negative subscriptions. People left. The people were so offended by my take that the Democratic cave was on balance still pretty good and a win for the Democrats. Like, not amazing. It wasn't like, oh my God, we've won everything. But it was like, on balance, the Democrats did better on the shutdown than they would have otherwise. People did not like that. Negative subscriptions to that, which is okay. That's fine. I appreciate your feedback. I just say this. Here we are on Thursday, 3 days later. If the Democrats in the Senate hadn't caved, we wouldn't be able to be having all this Epstein talk. The House wouldn't be in session right now. The discharge petition wouldn't be signed. Gravalia would not be. She would not be a seated member of the House. People would. What's that?
You said Gravalia. It's Grijalva.
Grijalva.
Yeah.
I struggle with this name in particular. Grijalva.
It's okay. Miller's hard too.
Thank you. Miller's Grijalva. Thank you, Alex. Grijalva wouldn't be seated. People wouldn't have their SNAP benefits. There'd be people that are hungry right now. Government workers wouldn't be riffed. If you were traveling, your flight might be canceled. My in-laws are trying to come for Grand Friends Day. That was about to be canceled probably if the government was still shut down. Not that big of a deal, but just on balance, like a lot of people's lives would have been worse. And the GOP would have had like some decent talking points right now still. They'd be blaming the Schumer shutdown and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. I'm going to get to the poll here in a second next on how Donald Trump's doing. It's not great. Kind of seems like things are pretty good. Kind of seems like Democrats won one battle, and now they're moving on to the Epstein battle. Then there'll be another battle in January, and that's how you win. Little bricks, one brick at a time. What do you think?
I mean, yes, it's good the government is opened back up again. I think that was going to happen at some point. I do think, do not get lulled into the notion / strategy that this was really just about healthcare. First of all, I interviewed someone for my podcast, Runaway Country, who is going to have her premiums go up $800 a month. Like the pain that woman is going to experience or the lack of health care for her debilitating medical condition is super real. And so there is, obviously there is the primary fight about premium increases that Democrats rallied around. But ultimately, this is a stress test for how much and how far Democrats are willing to go in the face of an authoritarian. And I don't think, maybe if they had spun it differently, and I know you and Chris Hayes workshopped some great alternative realities that Democrats could have been part of, but they weren't. If it had not been spun as a capitulation, like maybe we wouldn't be where we are, but they blinked at a precise moment where Trump was pushing as hard as he could to pressure them. And I think the upshot is that maybe the reaction both inside and outside the party has been so negative about the strategy to fold, with the exception of you, Tim Miller, that hopefully this re-energizes the party and makes them fight harder the next round. But I do worry that the signal it sent at a critical moment is not good. I worry that the actual people who are at the center of this, the 23 million Americans whose premiums are going to go up, are going to get fucked in a very specific way. But
we agree that was going to happen regardless because of the
maybe.
Republicans.
I mean, maybe. Yes, maybe.
You think it was possible that Donald Trump was going to sign an Obamacare subsidy extension? Come on.
I think at one point he said we have to do a deal. Like, I think if it had gone on longer, like, I don't know. I mean, I think we're in terra incognito insofar as there is a point at which Democrats or people interested in democracy are going to have to abide very painful things for the larger fight. And they didn't do that this time. And I understand to some degree, especially when you have food for 42 million Americans on the line at the beginning of the holiday season, right? That's just like, we as a country have not traditionally starved our own people for political gain, right? Or for a principled fight. So I understand that the circumstances were conspiring to make it hard for Democrats, but I do think this guy doesn't give a shit about anybody or anything, and his behavior over the last 2 weeks.
Which makes it hard to play a game of chicken with him, which is my point.
Of course. If anybody is going to try and curb his worst impulses, this shutdown fight was nominally about healthcare, but it was also about ICE dragnets, the unlawful detention of American citizens, tariffs, economic pain, and someone who's running roughshod over the Constitution. And those are battles that still need to be fought. So,
which I'm for, by the way.
What's
Don't
that?
want anybody to get mixed. Yeah, which I'm for, by the way. I think this is all I guess this is part of the reason why I was so adamant about trying to make this point, is that I do think that our politics gets flattened. And this is something that you try to deal with a lot, like when you're doing out on the road. It's part of Runaway Country. Politics does get flattened, where people are it's bad and good, black and white, fight or don't fight, right? And I'm I'm for all the fighting. I do think a lot of Democratic senators are not up for the moment, and I'd be totally supportive of a couple of primaries for some of the folks like Angus King, who went out and decided to go on MSNBC and decided to talk about how strong Donald Trump was for some reason, right? There's certainly some weak soldiers. Not everybody in the Senate conference is democracy's strongest soldier, I wouldn't say. And so all those fights are needed, and I think that they should continue, and the fighting must continue, and it is continuing today on Epstein. I just think that also you got to be smart.
Yes, And in that way, signaling that you're just waving the white flag and allowing 8 members of your caucus to go forward and freelance
the
a solution.
messaging was not smart. I thought
That's
the
not
timing
how
was
you
pretty
run
good.
a party. That ain't how you run a party. I mean, and like, as you said with Chris, tactically, they could have said, you know what? We gave them some time. They fucking couldn't man up. We're going to take this to the ballot box in November. Like that would have been one solution, but you would have had to have actual leadership and a coordinated message. And by the way, they should have followed up the deal with town halls and rallies across the country talking about healthcare, like signaling to the American people, we are not done. They gave up on you, but we haven't. And like that needs to be part of the message going forward.
They should still do that. I agree with that. Okay. Point, Alex. Just again on the other side about where things are, I think he's in the worst political shape that he's been in right now today since January 6th, or like since at least that year after January 6th, when he was like in the dumps and when like the Murdochs were saying that DeSantis is the future and stuff like that. Like he was in pretty bad straits. So he can come back from this. He was in worse straits in whatever that was, 2021, than he is right now. But he's, I think, in his worst position, at least since he started running again for president right now. Navigator poll from last, it was in the field last week, came out this week. 1 in 6 Trump voters say they regret their vote. Another 1 in 6 say they're disappointed in him. It's just one survey, 1,000 people. So, there could be some margin of error here, but that's 32% together. So even if that's off by half and it's 16% regret or disappointed in their vote, that's significant. And the word cloud of what people say of where they're disappointed, why they're disappointed or why they regret, they say shutdown, immigration, economy, food stamps, prices, promises, ballroom. And that's a pretty good summary of how people feel, I think, of these are people that voted for Trump, and they think that basically whatever you put promises in, that could be a lot of things. Like he's falling down on all of that, and the economy's not better, prices aren't better, immigration stuff for some people is too much.
Yeah, they look disparate, but ballroom goes with food stamps, goes with economy, goes with shutdown. It's all, and this is the work of the left, is to put it all together into a nice, easy to understand thesis of corruption and potentially kleptocracy. The ballroom thing, just like if you turn the White House into the inside of Aladdin's lamp, people are going to fucking notice and like have an issue with it at the same time that you're trying to strip them of necessary food and medical care. Like, what in the fuck? I think I agree with you. I think he's incredibly weak. And I think actually the climate's going to get worse. Like, I don't think he has an instinct for any kind of corrective measure. His instinct is always lash out against anybody who's critical of him, inside or outside his own party. And the fact is he's a lame duck. I mean, I think he wants to run for a third term, but constitutionally is prohibited from doing that. Like, he is a man with diminished power by virtue of where he is in office. And he's doing everything he can to undermine his own salience and credibility with his own people. So like the iron is hot, like strike now. He's completely mismanaged the economy. The tariffs are only going to make pain worse. The holiday season's upon us. People can't afford Christmas gifts. Food stamps and like immediate food assistance are taxed already. Though the government has opened back up, there are going to be disruptions. People's healthcare premiums are going to go up by 2 to 3 times in the course of the next year, which means everything gets less affordable. Those numbers are going to get worse, Tim.
I agree. For sure they're going to get worse. I mean, the premium stuff isn't even baked in. I don't think there's not a ton of signs of economic turnaround at this point. I think we're kind of at the beginning. I'll go back and forth. I decided I don't play Trump's voice on here as much as possible. And you get tempted for the same reasons to play people like Candace or Tucker or Nick Fuentes when they're attacking Trump, but it helps them in the algorithm. So I'm not actually going to play him. But Fuentes was out this week, and it was just kind of like, hate to hand it to Nick Fuentes, but he's right. He was on the disappointed side, and he's just like, basically the crux of his argument was that Trump has abandoned the America First principles in favor of the policies that are pushed by the donor class. Obviously, there's an anti-Semitic dog whistle and bullhorn in Fuentes' case, and how he talks about that. But it'd be like, you look at it from a policy standpoint, his point is focus too much on the foreign policy stuff, whether that be Israel or Venezuela, or from their point, like still supporting Ukraine, right? Like now, I'm for what he's doing in a couple of those situations, but not Venezuela in particular.
Say,
but from the America
fishermen.
First, from the America First perspective, it's like he's been focusing on what's he been focusing on? Those foreign entanglements. The BBB was tax cuts for rich people and his corporate friends. Special deals for the Silicon Valley oligarchs who are his friends, and building a fancy ballroom. And it's like, did any of that help, like the core MAGA base? The answer is obviously no.
At the same time,
it's kind of like that.
Well, it's not just passively not helping them. He's actively undermining their like household finances and making life worse for them on a very practical day-to-day level.
Yeah. Yeah. And on top of that, he's not giving them the Epstein files, which they wanted. So there is a way to tie all that together. So he's in tough straits. The question then is, can the Democrats message against it? And can the Democrats offer an alternative? That probably won't matter next year.
I think it does.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Talk about that. Then I'll get into the bigger picture.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I think they have several really important points to make, all under the umbrella of the system being rigged against normal everyday Americans. Like I just think all of it fits in there, and they need to not think of it. I mean, I think the biggest problem, like affordability, yes, I get it. It really won big on Tuesday, but it really is part of the broader thesis around Trump rigging the system for the wealthy and the elite. And that already is something people believe. You just need to hammer it home with examples and show people that Trump is a it is a complete farce, his presidency, that it's in any way populist. It is all about the rich and the elite and the people who like gilding on the ceiling and can help him pay for it. Like it is a joke that he has been able to ride into office and get back in there under the auspices of making life better and more affordable for the American public. And now the American public is going to see it in their checkbooks and at the kitchen table at night and when they try and go to the doctor. So like Democrats need to be on, first of all, they just also need to go out there and fight for it, like on the ground, shoe leather politics, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's go. No more just being in Congress and doing pull-asides as you get on the little mini subway, but like go out there and have town halls, start talking to people. There's so much they have to work with, and they need to start making a very simple, very elegant, and very compelling argument against Trumpism ahead of 2026, because that's going to lay the groundwork for 2028.
I agree with that. And the micro in 2026, that's tactical stuff. That's less about where I was going, which is like, could the Democrats actually put together a majority coalition themselves, right? Which is like more of a 2028 question in the long term. I wanted to bring that up because we last saw each other last weekend at Crooked Fest, which did pretty well. And I was put on, was intended to be
grumpy.
the fun panel. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You were
I was grumpy personally because, well, we're not going to get into it, but because my life is great. So I don't want to burden anyone with my random complaints. But it was supposed to be the fun panel, and it turned out to I had fun, but it was there was a lot of disagreement on the fun panel. It was the panel that had the most fighting, which some people like. Some people like fighting, which is fun. And so then it turned into kind of being the panel that represented, well, this is our big tent panel. Actually, it was the fun panel. It was going to be the fun panel, and now it's the big tent panel. And Atlantic wrote an article about it. People can go read if they want, about these kind of question of like, is the Democratic big tent actually workable? And with like kind of using the panel I was on as a microcosm of that. And it was me and Jessica Tarloff kind of representing relative versions of moderate. Simone kind of representing, kind of traditional Democrats. She'd worked for Bernie and Biden. Yeah, she worked for both, right? And was talking a lot more about some kind of like the identity politics stuff that you get from big portions of the Democratic coalition. And then you had Hassan Piker on there, who's like an anti-capitalist who is in China right now, talking about how he thinks China's doing a pretty good job. So I guess the question is, can like former Republican capitalists and not I'm talking about me necessarily even, but like voters, like who live in the suburbs, who started voting for Democrats because they hate Trump, and like anti-capitalist, like CCP interested
CCP
Maoists.
Curious.
Like, is that a workable tent? Like, do you think like is that
exciting? It seems like an exciting tent.
What did you say?
I think it's exciting, that tent. That's an exciting tent. I don't know if the flaps can hold. Listen, I've been thinking about this a lot in the context, not of your panel, which I unfortunately couldn't attend because I was hosting my own panel Pramila Jayapal and Ruben Gallego and Brian Schatz, which did not devolve into a fight, but was spicy.
It was spicy.
I will say that I think what I worry about in the context of Tuesday's wins is I think Democrats are finally figuring out the secret sauce of, an anodyne enough message that can work for a whole bunch of different kinds of candidates, right? So whether it's healthcare, reuniting the Democratic caucus in the shutdown fight, or whether it's affordability, uniting everyone from Abigail Spanberger to Zohran Mamdani, it's like, okay, there's we can all run with this idea because it's big enough and it's widely accepted to be strategically sound enough that everybody can agree on it, and we're each going to do it in our own different ways. But like short of this big thing that we all agree on, we have radically different ideas about both how to combat it, but like what else should be a part of the Democratic platform. I think Democrats are proving that they can win statewide elections, right? Governorships or mayoralties or, state legislatures, because those candidates know the sort of ingredients required to win in that particular state. But my concern is what Democrats do when it's time for a national election, because when you have a tent that big, I just worry that no one can be everything to everyone. And like, if you are a believer in Zohran Mamdani style politics, which are, first of all, very driven by a specific personality, very strong, very outspoken, very unapologetic. You could say the same thing about Graham Plattner up in Maine. Then I don't know that the politics of Abigail Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill are going to appeal to you, nor do those candidates. And what you have to do in 2028 is agree on someone who's going to lead you nationally. And I do worry that with a tent that big, that includes maybe Hassan Piker and Jessica Tarloff and you, like, how do you find someone that can weave all of that together? I mean, maybe it's just the sheer force of personality, but that's going to require one fucking hell of a personality, right? Like, you could argue that Obama was able to paper over divisions within the Democratic Party because everyone just liked him so damn much. Maybe there's someone like that in the Democratic bench for whom there is just enough general adoration that there are not too many questions asked about the specifics. But I do worry about the Democratic Party having the problem that Republicans had for a long time in the early 2000s and mid-aughts, which was, we're really good at the state level, we're terrible at the national politics.
I worry about that too, because it's going to have to be a really damn good personality, and I'm not really seeing it out there. I can imagine somebody that is enough of kind of like an outsider that throws some that gets maybe to the left of the traditional Democratic message on economics, maybe to throw some chum to the populist lefty Bernie, Hassan, Zohran, whatever you want to say, wing, but also doesn't share maybe some of the more eccentric foreign policy views of views on other random issues, let's say of Hassan in particular, but even Zohran. But like who, like how? It's very challenging to do. And if you look at and I think it's I think especially if there's a feeling that Trump is very weak and the threat isn't there. Like, man, and all you have to do is go into any online space to see, like, there is some pretty bitter feeling. Like, just looking at the response of our panel, I mean, there are a decent number of people that are like, why would you even sit next to Hassan because he said this about October 7th, or because he's an anti-capitalist, right? And then there are Hassan fans that are like, Kamala Harris was too conservative. I can't even support her because she is too conservative, right? Like, that becomes tough to bridge, I think, and it's a 2027 problem. But I can imagine how somebody could do it, but it's tough.
Yeah, I think it's like when you have the sort of Ezra Klein conversation about we need pro-life candidates who are on the Democratic side of the aisle in the South. It's like, yeah, okay, maybe you can win Alabama like that, but you're not going to be able to run that candidate or anybody that accepts that platform on the national level. Like, I get the people. It's like, well, maybe we need to have more people that have guns in the Democratic Party. Well, yeah, but like one of the huge motivating forces within the Democratic Party right now is like gun safety reform. And like, I just don't know how you square all those circles unless you have some. I mean, Trump has proved a useful, I think, anesthetic for the Democratic Party because he's so plainly evil and bad for the country. Everybody can amass against him, but when he's no longer there and you really do just have to discuss the sort of merits of the platform becomes somewhat incoherent if you expand the tent too big.
Barnum and Bailey style tent. All right. Runaway Country. I want to hear about the pod. Yeah, we do. I want to hear about the pod, what you're trying to get out of it. I was kind of going back to some of the episodes. Maybe share just a little tease. You can go to the archive about your kind of conversation with the fired immigration judge, Judge Pettit. And her story was crazy. So maybe just give us a little bit on the pod and on that episode. Anything else you want people to know?
We talked about this in this show earlier, which is the way in which the actual story gets lost. It becomes just kind of headlines that we digest and react to, and then we move on. And I think that that's led to a real numbness has set in with both the American voter and the news audience, right? Like, it's just, people are like, oh, it's really bad out there. Generally, it's a dark cloud has descended on this country, and like, let me know when it's passed. And one of the ways I want people to sort of like re-engage with the stories and also better understand them is by like being emotionally invested in them. And I think the way you do that is storytelling. So one of the things we do at the start of every show is have perspective from someone who's like directly involved in the story. And the judge that you mentioned is an immigration judge who's like in the courtroom trying to, adjudicate these immigration cases as ICE agents are in the courtroom and outside grabbing people. People are screaming. She explained to me what it's like to judge cases in that climate, the way in which the Trump Department of Justice has sort of flipped the script and is changing the way these cases are adjudicated, and then also firing the most qualified judges on the bench because they basically just want to bring in military lawyers and expedite all of this. And it raises huge questions about due process, but it also it brings you into the courtroom and you can kind of understand, we know that the immigration system is fucked up by virtue of the fact that there are these dragnets happening that are terrorizing Black and brown communities all over the country. But like, once you actually get into the system itself, you have an even better perspective on the ways in which it's been adulterated and totally derailed intentionally by this administration. And it's told to you from, a firsthand perspective, which I think is actually missing in the larger immigration story and just the larger story about the Trump administration is like, okay, what does it practically mean to live through this story? So that's what we're trying to do, trying to shake people out of their slumber a little bit. Sometimes you have to like really give people something that is happening in the world, a deeper perspective on something really seismic that's happening in the world that they may have become a little bit anesthetized to. So that's what we try and do on Runaway Country in this nation we live in with no breaks.
It is absolutely needed. I would appreciate that. So I know the immigration thing, you could just do whole pods. You could do it on that every week, probably. I mean, we got Adrian Kerskio with us doing the Huddled Masses newsletter, and every week he writes one. I'm just like, oh my God. It's just hard to keep track of all the stories. So anything else coming up? Any tease? Do you have a tease? Are you on the road?
Well, this week, today's episode, we talked to Morris Katz, who's he was the senior advisor to Mamdani's campaign and to Graham Plattner's campaign, because I wanted to get a sense of what it was like to be in the center of a kind of insurgent fighting both the bully of Trump and Trumpism, but also the specter of the Democratic establishment, and just what that fight is like in the context of the government shutdown, where it's like, oh, these centrists are railroading the real fighters and warriors in the party. What's it like to be on the front lines of the fight for like a new party? And then we pair that with Hassan Piker, who's talking to us about the war on the other side, which is Republicans basically figuring out how to deal with Nazism in their own party by either saying nothing or like getting on board. So it's.
Did you ask him about the Chinese?
He told me a lot about the Japanese Communist Party towards the end of our conversation. The podcast is only so long, Tim, is what I found out with Hassan Piker.
Yeah,
and
I mean, hey, I'm worried about the Republican Nazis. I am.
As we should all be.
We're all worried about it. The Chinese treatment of minorities, it's not that much better.
Ask the
Uyghurs. Wouldn't say, but that's just me. More to come on that. Alex Wagner, I appreciate you so much. This has been great.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on this great podcast. I look forward to our sex podcast debuting.
I do too.
2026.
I do too. Everybody, send us your questions. I think we'd give great advice. I mean, not always the same, but that'd be good. People should hear different perspectives.
I agree. Let's do it.
All right. That's Alex Wagner. Everybody else, we'll be back here tomorrow. Hopefully no discussion of Larry Summers' sex life on the podcast. We have a more sober guest, but he's a favorite. So you'll enjoy it. We'll see you back here then. Peace.